Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 369 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as always by the former heavyweight world title challenger, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers.
That was good, Joe. That was pretty damn good. Hey man, I'm doing good, especially now. How about you, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even ask if you were good this week. I just did the announcing. So, yeah, I'm good. And you knew what was coming. Always have to start the show by making sure you're okay. Moving on to the review part. We're going to fly through this. Obviously, if you've listened to the show before, we do the review part. Then we welcome our special guest this week. It's going to be former WBA Super-Lightweight world champion Regis Prograis. He's in a big fight for a vacant title later this month. And then, of course, in part two, the news and the preview part. Let's start with the review part. We're going to start here with one that took place last Thursday. So a week ago today, Thursday, November 3rd, at the Quiet Cannon Country Club in Montebello, California. Over here, Sergey Bohachuk, now 21-1, another knockout, 21 knockouts. You know, every single person he's fought, he's knocked out, apart from when he lost to, I think, I keep forgetting the guy's name. I think it was Brandon Adams. But anyway, he was able on this occasion to knock out Aaron Coley in just round two there for the vacant WBC Continental America's Super Welterweight title. Good stuff there for Bohachuk. Still not quite sure what the plan is with him though, because you've got to maneuver him very carefully if you want him to still get the knockouts. But you know, we've seen him step up, and it was you know, a sensible, slow, steady step up when he did end up getting found out and knocked out himself. Moving out now to this one. It took place at the Rudolf Weber Arena in Oberhausen in Germany. Over here, it was firework night in the UK, November the 5th. Zan Kostobutsky, now 19-0, I think with 18 KOs. He was able to knock out in 3 rounds Hussein Mohammed, who was undefeated. Now he's 17-1. He loses his O. It was for the WBC International Heavyweight title. I did say someone was going to be getting knocked out in that one, and it was Mohammed. Moving out now to this one, I guess it was the big one. It was live on DAZN. It was at the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi. Let's start with the undercard here. Where should we start on the undercard? Campbell Hatton. Let's start with Campbell Hatton. He got in there with Dennis Bartos, who I don't want to say he's a journeyman, because he was 9-5 going in, but I've seen him get knocked out by flyweights, and he was here, I believe, at 140 against Campbell Hatton, and he didn't have much notice, if I'm not mistaken. So Campbell Hatton now 9-0, a first round knockout there against Dennis Bartos. He's now 9-6. We had former world champion, friend of the show, Cal Yafai, now 27-1. A unanimous decision in the end over 10 rounds against Gerald Paklar. However, he was down in the first round, Cal Yafai. It was a real shock. Gerald Paklar, who I think was from the Philippines, if I'm not mistaken, now 16-6 with 3 draws. He was actually, to bet on him to win the fight in the first round by knockout was 125-1, and he put Cal Yafai down, and he was very, very, very unsteady when he got back up. Cal Yafai seemed like he was on shaky legs. I think he got caught a few times as well in the next couple of rounds, and just he did not look right. I think he'd been out the ring for about 3 years, so obviously there's that ring rust. But yeah, it was not good. It was really not good. Yeah, quite a shock, to be honest with you. And if he would have got knocked out by this guy, then that was it. He would have been forced into retirement, I think. Also on the card, his younger brother, Galal Yafai, the Olympic gold medalist, now 3-0 as a pro. A very close one, though. He was able to win a split decision over 10 rounds against Gohan Garcia, now 12-2 with a draw. Obviously, they're moving Galal Yafai really, really fast. It was a defense here of his WBC International Flyweight title. However, a lot of people felt he lost this fight. I wasn't really paying too much attention to the fight, in all honesty. I know it was close, but yeah, I mean, perhaps maybe they should pump the brakes with him. There's no need to rush him. He's still young, as far as I'm aware. I think he's the youngest of the 3 Yafai brothers. I think his future's bright. They don't give away Olympic gold medals, of course, for free. And I think he can do big things, but let's not rush him. He doesn't need to be a Lomachenko. I don't really get it. But then I suppose, really and truly, they were trying to rush him, because Eddie Hearn was talking about maybe having 1 or 2 more fights than a world title. That would mean he would become the quickest Englishman in history to become world champion if he was to win the world title fight, of course. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's a nice. It's a nice, motivating and tempting, thing to become world champion that quickly, but it's not necessary, especially if you're not ready. Don't rush yourself. You only get one start to your career. Moving on to the bigger fights, I guess. Let's start with this one here. Chantel Cameron, now 17-0, a unanimous decision there over 10 2-minute rounds against Jessica McCaskill, who's now 12-3. She loses for the first time since losing to Katie Taylor all them years ago. Yeah, it was for the IBF, the IBO, WBA, WBC and WBO world titles. 3 of them were vacant, so Chantel successfully defended her IBF and WBC, but now she also wins the IBO, WBA and WBO. Really dominant performance from her, actually. I'm going to run through the rounds. The first round I gave to Chantel Cameron. I felt McCaskill was repeatedly walking into big shots, and already, even in that 2 minutes, I was thinking, what on earth are her tactics here? She looked really clumsy. She was walking in sometimes with both arms extended, like she was coming in for a hug or something. It was weird stuff. Round 2, I gave to Cameron. Round 3, I gave to Cameron. Again, McCaskill seemed no match for Chantel. I didn't know if it was a weight thing, but she looked awful. Obviously, she was coming down in weight, but I touched on it in the past as well. She's not a big 147. I mean, she's come in at 143, stuff like that in the past. I don't know. Something looked wrong though. She didn't look herself. Her feet were really, really slow. She looked really flat-footed, and Cameron was in full control. I gave Cameron round 4, 5 and 6 as well. I gave round 7 to McCaskill, a little bit of a sympathetic round, but she did actually cause a cut on the bridge of the nose of Cameron in that round 7. Round 8 I gave to McCaskill again. I felt she was finally starting to get through a little bit more, but obviously too little too late for me. I did give her that 8th round. Round 9 was a really close round. The punch of the round was certainly one scored for McCaskill, but I felt Chantel could have nicked it. It was really close, and I think Chantel was admittedly slowing down a bit at that point in the 9th round there. Yeah, if I was pushed, I'd give it to McCaskill. And then round 10, the final round, I gave to Cameron. So on my card, 7-3 there after 10 rounds. She was the rightful winner. I would love to see the rematch at 147, just simply because it's a fantastic opportunity for Chantel to become an undisputed 2-weight undefeated world champion. That's incredible. But of course, selfishly, I would also love the fight with Katie Taylor. I don't see why that can't be made. And there's other great domestic fights if Chantel's willing to go up or whatever. Obviously, you've got the likes of Terry Harper, Natasha Jonas, all the girls like that. What else did we have? We had, this one was tough to take. Shavkatzon Rakhimov, now 17-0 with a draw. He was able to TKO in round 9 Zelfa Barrett, who's now 28-2. It was for the vacant IBF World Super Featherweight title. Oh, what a punch in the gut this really was. I'm going to fly through the rounds and tell the story here. Round 1, a decent round for Zelfa Barrett. I personally wasn't sure he won it, but, he came out, he tried a few of those screw shot uppercuts that he likes to do. I think his feet were much faster than those of Rakhimov, but Barrett, I didn't think, was showing the best head movement. But Rakhimov wasn't exactly dominating or anything. It was a close round. And I felt that the trouble Zelfa was having, or I should say the success Rakhimov was having, maybe sounds better, was that he was just able to walk straight into range. He didn't have to do much to get into range and get close up to the body of Zelfa Barrett. Round 2, I thought was a clear round for Zelfa Barrett. It was a really good watch. Barrett was under pressure and he seemed at times to just hold the gloves up and take the shots. It didn't look too great, but sometimes he would throw a nice counter and, he would catch Rakhimov with a fantastic shot here and there. Rakhimov didn't seem fazed by the power, though, it would appear at that stage. Barrett did also land some beautiful body shots in that round and, snatched a round for me in round 2. Round 3, an unbelievable round for Zelfa Barrett. He staggered Rakhimov early in the round. Then there was a moment where Barrett supposedly hit Rakhimov low and he was complaining to the referee, Rakhimov, but the referee didn't call it. He said continue boxing, and Barrett did keep punching. Rakhimov wasn't happy. Zelfa was boxing fantastically, and then boom, a counter uppercut off the ropes drops Rakhimov, an absolute peach of a punch, a 10-8 round there in the third for Zelfa Barrett. I was screaming, in my living room at the iPad on the zone. I was so pleased because I didn't expect this from Zelfa Barrett. I felt that Rakhimov was good enough to walk through him, really. I didn't give Zelfa much of a chance as much as I wanted him to win. Round 4, a Barrett round for me again. I felt he was boxing out of his skin. I wasn't entirely sure he would be able to keep it up, of course. Round 5, I gave to Rakhimov. He did start to kind of rally back. Again, it was arguably the first round of the fight that he'd won, and it certainly was the case on Chris Mannix's scorecard, for whatever that's worth. He did give the 5th round to Rakhimov. He gave the previous 4 to Zelfa Barrett, including the 10-8 round, of course, that I mentioned. I felt Zelfa did slow a bit. I was hoping that the gas tank wasn't fading. Barry Jones on commentary, who, by the way, was fantastic all night, he made a point by saying it's down to discipline now for Barrett. And I felt he was spot on with that comment there. It was down to discipline. But he lost the 5th round. He lost the 6th round on my card. I did give him round 7. I think he just picked his shots better, Zelfa Barrett, in that round, so he came back a bit, and he was having to dig deep, clearly. Dig deep, deeper than he'd ever dug before. I was really proud of his efforts to get that far. Obviously, I touched on some of the bad luck he's had outside of the ring. I gave Zelfa Barrett round 8 again. I felt the round was close, though. It really was. And then round 9... The fight just completely got turned on its head. Barrett's balance was all over the place. I'm not sure even now what happened. He seemed like he got maybe caught with a shot in the temple. I don't know. There was talk that maybe his equilibrium was off. There was talk that maybe he'd injured his leg. No one was quite sure. And he goes down twice out of nowhere. And obviously the towel came in from his uncle, Pat. It looked like maybe something was wrong with his leg when I watched the replay. I still, like I say, haven't heard anything since. I'm sure he's probably spoke about it, but I don't really watch many interviews and stuff. But he, I'm sure, was absolutely devastated. And all I felt he needed to do, and all many people felt he needed to do, was just stay on his feet. And he was obviously in round 9. If he could have made it to the decision, I think he'd already won the fight. But obviously he couldn't, and that's why fights are 12 rounds, unfortunately. It was a shame because I didn't give him much of a chance, and then he boxed out of his skin and ended up not reaping the reward for it. A real shame to all come tumbling down very quickly in the 9th round. And then, of course, the main event, Dimitri Bivol, now 21-0, a unanimous decision there over 12 rounds, a successful defense of his WBA Super World Light Heavyweight title against Gilberto Ramirez de Mexico. There we go. Feel good again. I thought that Bivol would win quite comfortably. I always did. I've never rated Ramirez too much. I think he's a decent fighter, but I always kind of felt that to get to 44-0, the record was inflated. It really was. Bivol has impressed us many, many times. Such a brilliant boxer. They were talking about his statistics. Apparently, he is, of all the top boxers out there, he's the guy that takes the least amount of punches. Like his defense apparently is better than that of Shakur Stevenson's, which is kind of amazing because you don't really see Bivol on the back foot tucking up, making people miss much. He kind of stands in front of you, really. He's just an excellent boxer with a great judge of distance and good head movement. The weird thing is that Bivol actually came in a quarter of a pound heavier than Ramirez, which is kind of funny. But no, the fight itself, I gave round 1 to Bivol, I gave round 2 to Ramirez, I gave round 3 to Ramirez. So I felt he started okay, Ramirez. I'm going through this really quickly now. Round 4 I gave Bivol, round 5 I gave Bivol. At that point I felt the fight was really very tactical. Both men were really cautious, doing their best not to make many mistakes. Round 6 I gave to Bivol, round 7 I gave to Bivol. It was a big round. He nailed Ramirez on the ropes with some heavy shots, and Ramirez, I felt at that point, was still yet to make a mark. We talked about the big size, we talked about the punching power, we didn't really see it. Round 8 a Bivol round again. I felt the fight was slipping away from Ramirez. He couldn't seem to get in a groove. Bivol was bossing things. A lot of people in the build-up, again, were saying that they wouldn't be surprised if Ramirez were to win the fight and pull off the upset, and that Bivol wouldn't and couldn't win this fight easily. But he was proving them all wrong. Like I say, I wasn't surprised. I gave round 9 to Bivol, I gave round 10 to Ramirez, and I gave rounds 11 and 12 both to Bivol. So I think in the end, let me count how many rounds I gave to Ramirez. I gave him round 2, round 3, and round 10. So about 9-3 on my card there for Bivol. I don't know if you saw any of that card at all, Eddie. But if you did see it, let me know. And also, if you didn't see it, what's your take on Bivol beating a much, much, much bigger guy and completely a different body shape to that of Canelo last time out?
Well, actually, I did watch it, and I was like, I was doing we were doing a couple things. We had this, we were trying out this new boxing video game. I think the same day as the fight, so we were kind of watching them on. We had one on TV here, and then one on the iPad. So I was watching it. Bivol did a lot of good things in the fight. I mean, being that the style was completely different and the size was completely different to what he had faced with Canelo, he did a good job in adjusting. I mean, obviously, you have to be able to adjust from fight to fight. I mean, there's no thing where you go and, just because you're fighting a different guy that you can't, you're not gonna be able to do it, or you're not, the camp you have, you just can't, there can't be any excuses like that. You know what I mean? So you got to be able to go in there and fight whoever's in front of you and do the best you could possibly do. So, you can't expect nothing less. I mean, and he did a professional job. He did a really good job in controlling the distance as much as he could, picking up the pace at times and pressing him a little bit, getting inside the range. And he's a southpaw too. A tall southpaw is could be difficult, man. It could be really, really difficult. I can give you an example of how it was for me when I learned how to fight southpaw. I learned what a tall southpaw. So for him to be able to, go out there and take care of business. Like I said, I seen some of the things that I do and what he was doing with southpaws, like where he would go into the power, trying to draw the power hand so he can get, some advantages off of that. Maybe some, bring some straight right hands, not left hands, straight left hands down the pike, and then following up with that jab. I like that 2-1 that he throws too. Really gave Canelo a lot of trouble, and I see that working for him. That's just one of his things. He throws a lot of straight shots. throws some hooks in there, but he throws a lot of straight shots. So it worked. It worked for him to the perfection. Early on he was struggling and trying to deal with the range and the southpaw style that he brought. And Ramirez was doing a good job in certain ways, making it difficult, making him uncomfortable. But as the fight wore on, he started to catch his groove. And you can see him, like I seen him, there was a couple different times he would throw, 4 or 5 punch combinations at him, trying to land each, trying to be as accurate as possible. But I mean, you're not going to land every single shot in a combination like that, especially at the elite level. So, but he did do well. He landed some of the shots. He made him uncomfortable. He landed a couple good shots. Like he got, I don't want to say staggered him, but he got the better of it. Maybe not, like I said, maybe not staggered, but he kind of got his attention, let's say. And, overall, got to give him credit. He did good. It wasn't one of my favorite fights to watch. And then the style and the way they mixed wasn't beautiful. It wasn't overly exciting, in my opinion. And maybe it was because I wasn't necessarily interested or know much about the other guy. But all in all, a nice workmanlike performance. He did a good job. He took care of business. He put out there that he's still one of, if not one of the best in that division. So, he obviously still got to deal with, what's his name? Beterbiev. Yeah, he still got to deal with Beterbiev. That's going to be it's not going to be an easy one, obviously. Most people will be picking Beterbiev, but with his recent work that he's done, he's built a pretty good resume to people to say, hey, look, you can't just overlook this guy.
Yeah, without a doubt. And moving on to the final card that took place last week. It again was on the Saturday at the Armory in Minneapolis, Minnesota, USA. I actually came up with a catchphrase, there's no harmony in the Armory, and then I think they robbed it, and I saw a few different people using it, but whatever. I didn't copyright it in time, I guess. On the undercard over here, Julian J. Rock Williams out of Philly, friend of the show, now 28-3 with a draw, a unanimous decision over 8 rounds for him against Rolando Mancia, who's now 18-12 with a draw. Mancia was deducted a point in round 5. He kept losing his mouthpiece. Also on the card, Andre Durrell with a TKO in the 10th and final round. He was the underdog as well going in. He's now 29-3, a TKO in that 10th and final round against Unieski Gonzalez, now 21-5. Like I say, Durrell the underdog going in. If you would have backed him for a knockout late on, that would have been serious money there, but I don't know if anyone did. But yeah, great stuff there for Andre Durrell. Good stuff for the Durrell family to get a knockout win, just a couple weeks after being on the end of a knockout loss, of course, the other brother Anthony, friend of the show Anthony. And elsewhere on this card we had Jason Banana Rosario lose. He was knocked out in round 5. He was down in round 2 as well. He's now 23-4, the former world champion, with a draw, I should mention. He was knocked out by Brian Mendoza, who's now 21-2. I mean, Rosario was the favourite, like the odds were close, and I thought, why are the odds close? I mean, Rosario, former world champion, decent puncher, stuff like that. I remember him, beating up J-Rock, and I'd never seen Brian Mendoza fight, and I thought, I looked at his record, no real standout names really, maybe just 1 or 2 that I knew, and I thought, I don't understand, like, why are the odds close? I mean, I don't think he's going to win, but Rosario was pretty bad. I mean, he had a couple rounds, I think maybe rounds like 3 and 4, where he seemed to come back into it a little bit after getting dropped. But in the end, I'm not sure. He seems finished. And it's been a very kind of quick up and down career, I think, for him. And then the main event, David Morrell, the Cuban, now 8-0. I expected him to get the knockout. I thought he could maybe get the knockout within the first half of the fight, but no, he managed to get the knockout in the 12th and final round. He takes the O away from Aidos Yebosinuli, who everyone was struggling to pronounce that name. I'm glad it wasn't just me last week. He's now 16-1. Got to be careful here because Yebosinuli, as we speak, is still in a coma. following his knockout loss. He was placed into a medically induced coma after the fight. He took a real beating actually over the 12 rounds. I really thought that the stoppage could come in the first half, like I say, and I think Morrell had moments, but I don't think he really stepped on the gas until later on in the fight, and I was struggling really to give Yebosinuli pretty much more than maybe 1 or 2 rounds. I mean, it was one-sided, and as the fight wore on, he was just taking more and more of a beating. And now, of course, in the aftermath, everyone says, hindsight's a great thing. Now everyone's saying, why didn't the corner throw the towel in round 7, round 8? Why did they allow him to take that beating? Well, it's easy to say that now, obviously, because we know what's happened. But they in the corner were saying, you've only got another 6 minutes left, champ, and you're going to be world champion, things like this, which, looked more and more unlikely as the fight wore on. A successful defense there for Morrell of his WBA World Super Middleweight title. Yebosinuli down twice in that 12th and final round, and also deducted a point for holding. Eddie, did you want to say something?
Yeah. It's just to the folks that'll watch fights and and after the fight's over, oh man, they should have stopped it early. They should have. It'll be the same people that be like, why they stop it so soon?
True.
Or why did they stay? And it's like you gotta understand. This is a difficult sport. It's a really dangerous sport. The more sometimes you'll be in there and the fight doesn't even really seem that bad. It might goes back and forth. Maybe the guy gets dropped, comes back, and the fight's going back and forth, and all of a sudden, the fight's over. The guy then staggers back. One of the guys. And it's like, ooh, what's wrong? And then he lays out. Then you get the stretcher out and you take him out, and then he passes away later. It's like those types of things are serious. When you see your guy taking too much damage, it needs to be taken. That needs to be taken note and immediately. And you see he's taking heavy shots over the course of even 5 or 6 rounds. It's time to just throw the towel in. You know what I mean? It's pointless. And for those people who will complain, hey, look, at least he gets to fight another day. Maybe live another day. You know what I mean? It's like I said, this is a really dangerous sport. Shout out to the guys who actually do it. Like myself and of course, different people that I know and family members and all. It's a really, really serious sport. You take your heart, your life, and your hands every single time you go out there. So people just need to be a little more understanding to what's going on in the ring.
Yeah, well said, Eddie. Well said. And you're 100% right. That is it, though, for the review part of the show. The final thing for me to do in this part is to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBA Super-Lightweight World Champion. He's on the intro every week. The monster from the swamps, the Rougarou himself, Mr. Regis Prograis. Regis, welcome back on the show, my man.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me, bro. What's going on with it?
Hey, not much, my man. It's good to have you back on. We last spoke back in March. At that time, you were getting ready to fight Tyrone McKenna in Dubai. Right. I always felt that fight would be one that you'd win quite easily. It turned out to be the case. You stopped him. You become the first man to stop him when you did in round 6. Just tell me about that fight, though. It was obviously in Dubai, a place you really liked.
Right, I love Dubai, bro. Before the fight, I kept saying, man, if somebody out there offer me the right deal, I might end up moving out there. I loved it out there, bro. I love Dubai, and just on that fight, bro, like it's funny, me and McKenna fought, but he ended up being one of the best opponents, bro. Like as far as a likable person, like I had to whoop his ass, but at the same time, he was a real cool dude, and it was fun. And one thing I do plan on doing, I want to go to Ireland and just go visit them out there, and just make it a vacation. I'm a travel head. I love to travel, so I think that'll be a fun trip if I can make a trip to Ireland. But as far as the fight, bro, it was cool. It was good. I'm just glad I got that over with, and then it was on to the next, which is this fight for the belt.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. That's cool though that you you'd like to go to Ireland, obviously, and you're somewhat friends. That's pretty cool. Your next fight, as you mentioned, it's been announced. Obviously, you'll be boxing Jose Zepeda November 26th in Carson, California for the recently vacated WBC world title. It's been 3 years now, just about, since you last boxed for a world title. So I'm guessing you're really happy to finally get this chance, because remember, that fight with Josh Taylor was really, really close, and it's been 3 years of you being frozen out, really.
Exactly, bro. Like for me, I feel like it was always gonna come. For me, for 3 years, I've been, as far as like everybody asks me, have I been frustrated? And the answer is like yes and no. Because personally, I'm doing great. Personally, I always did real good. Personally, I keep my same lifestyle. I travel. I have a lot of fun with my lifestyle. But as far as boxing, I guess it has been a little frustrating, because I went from, I was main event on all these different networks, and then after that you take a loss, and it's like people just kind of throw you under the bus. That's how it is in boxing. It's sad, but I mean, I don't know why, but I was main event on Showtime like 5 times in a row. And then ESPN, then the Zone, I was all main event on it. And then after that, after I lost, they just kind of threw me under the bus, And so for me, it's been 3 years since since I was a world champion, and I just been working, man. For the most part, I shut up, and I kind of as far as social media stuff, I don't complain too much. I just shut up and I put my head down and I work, and I'm just glad I'm getting this, the title shot again, and be back where I belong. I feel like I'm the number one fighter in the world at 140, and this, I think after this fight, it'll solidify that once again.
And tell me, Regis, how much do you rate Zepeda? Good fighter.
Good fighter. I mean, listen, one thing, the credit I give him is that he earned his shot again. He got here again. But as far as me, listen, I just feel like I'm too much for him. I honestly feel like I'm too much. He's been dropped. He's been hurt. Me, I never been dropped. I never been hurt ever in a fight, So it's just like I feel like I'm levels. I really feel like I'm above him. As far as everything, power, skill, everything. And but like I said, I do credit him on getting this shot. Like he definitely deserved this shot. If anybody in the world deserves a shot at the belt, it'll definitely be him. So. I give him his credit for that, but as far as fighting me, I really feel like I'm just too much for him.
Yeah, I mean, I rate him highly. I think, there's a few guys, I don't want to be harsh here and call Jose Vargas a pretender, but this is a guy who got in there, looks fantastic, gets in there, gets in with Zepeda. Zepeda just obliterated him in a round. It's almost as if like any pretenders who want to get in there, he will destroy them. That's how good I think Zepeda can be,
Right, exactly. Like I said, he did this thing against them, but for me, he had a great knockout against Jose Vargas, and he had a knockout against Ibaranchek. But for me, listen, I'm not either one of those fights, and I don't think both of those fights together still don't equal me, with everything together. So, I give him credit for getting this opportunity and getting it. He does deserve his shot, but as far as going up against me, I feel like I'm too much.
And yeah, you touched on, obviously, his fight with Baranchik was a fantastic fight. One thing I want to ask you as well, Regis, obviously you're both southpaws. Historically, southpaw versus southpaw tends to make a bad stylistic fight most of the time. It's not always great to watch, but he's never really in a boring fight. You're certainly never in a boring fight. I think this one will be exciting.
Yeah, it definitely should be an exciting fight for me, for however long it lasts. I feel, I think it'd definitely be an exciting fight, but like I said, we'll see, man. I'm just excited to be getting this shot again. Like I said, I've been training for 3 years for this one specific fight. The people I fought, it wasn't for that. It was to get the belt again, and I'm fighting for the belt, and I'm happy about it. So, everything for those 3 years I've been training is going to come out on November 26th.
And have you thought about becoming champion again? The feeling of being a 2-time world champion? And by the way, have you thought further than that to maybe the next steps once you're a titleist again?
I mean, I Really not yet, man. Listen, the first time I was a champion, I really didn't even cherish it. I didn't even care about it, So I'm pretty sure the second time around, it'll probably be more, it definitely should be more sweeter because it's like I actually earned it this time. I had to wait and I actually earned it. The first time, I'm not going to say it was given to me, but it was easy to get. I got to the title. It was an easy shot. I had the, I only got to the title, of course, because of the tournament. I fought Flanagan, then I fought Relic after that, and Relic was the champion. So I took the belt from him. But for me, it was easy, and I didn't really like. It was just like I was nonchalant about being a champion. But the second time around, I definitely think it'll be better. And the second part of the question, I'm looking forward. Right now it's just Zepeda. Zepeda is the only thing on my mind, but of course, in the back of my mind, you always think like, what's after? What's next? It's a huge fight. I mean, I can count on my hand right now 5 really big fights. Like real big marquee fights, and then probably 10 fights, but 5 of them will definitely be marquee fights. So of course that's in the back of my mind, but I don't just like everybody else. It's cliche. You just don't want to get too much in front of yourself. You just take it one fight at a time, and that's what I'm doing. I've been just training. For me, I just been training like crazy for Zepeda.
And you say there about 5-10 fights that could be mouth-watering in the future. Obviously, we don't want to get into that too much. Like you say, we don't want to get ahead too much. But those fights, do you see them at 140 or do you see them at 147? Because I think maybe last time we spoke, you might have, I could be wrong, but I feel like you might have had one eye on moving up soon.
I mean, for me, I can't. It's hard for me to think about moving up until I'm a champion again. I had opportunities to go fight at 147, but for me, I want to be a champion at 140. So, it all depends. I think it all depends what's put on the table after the fight. But like I said, I can't really look at that right now because the first thing, Zepeda is he's a solid opponent, and I have to get past him first before I even think about doing anything else.
And you said as well, and I'm going to be brief with this, but you said that once you become a champion, you were very nonchalant about it. And I just want to say, I think that's really true. I mean, you've never changed since I've known you. You've always been really cool, to speak to. And to be honest, I've interviewed hundreds of boxers. You're probably one of the guys who replies to a text message the quickest. So I'll give you that. You've never changed. Stay the same, Regis. Josh Taylor was I think holding up the division a little bit. Obviously, he had all the belts. As fans, we did want to see the Jack Catterall rematch, but obviously that sadly meant that people like yourself, like Jose Ramirez, like Jose Zepeda, top guys in the division, were all coming off wins, but were all being forced into inactivity because they're kind of waiting around, not knowing what's going on.
Right.
I was going to say, has it been stressful? But I guess you've kind of gone into it. It was and it wasn't.
Yeah, it just, like I said, it wasn't. It's just like, for me, you don't really stress about things that you can't control, I couldn't control none of that stuff, so I couldn't stress about it. What I could control is, just me training every day. That's all, So while all that stuff was happening, while all that stuff was going on, all I did, I just stuck to training, bro. I just kept training and changed some things up in my team and just got better, So yeah, I think it was frustrating, but at the same time, it wasn't frustrating. It's not like I could change anything. So it's like you could be frustrated all you want, but it's not gonna happen from it. So I really didn't worry about it.
And Regis, tell me, the rematch with Josh Taylor, is that a fight for you that needs to happen, or would you not be too bothered if we didn't ever see it again?
No, I feel like it has to happen. I feel like me and Josh Taylor have to fight again, and that's why that's why I'm staying at 140. I feel like, I mean, I don't know Josh Taylor. I don't know his team or nothing like that, but I don't know what from what I understand, he's going to move up after this fight with Catterall. No matter what happens, he's gonna move up. But I mean, if I'm a champion, well, I will be a champion again. And after that happens, if me and Josh, if he is victorious against Catterall, imagine me and Josh Taylor too, for unified again. He'll be champion, I'll be champion. Imagine that. Like that'll be huge. That'll be a huge fight. Like why would you go to 147? Because I mean, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but I don't think he does good at 147. I just don't. I don't think he can really. The top names at 147. I don't think he can really be good at 147. So I don't know, but yeah, I definitely wanna, fight him again. That if I had a hit list, he'll be number one on my hit list for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because even if he did move to 147, it's not like you're going to get a title shot anytime soon. We know that the top guys are really struggling to fight each other. There's a lot of politics involved at the top, and there's a lot of guys as well in that queue. An exciting addition to 140, Regis, is young Teofimo Lopez. What kind of splash can you see him making at 140? I know he's fighting Pedraza December 10th also. How do you see that one going?
He should be Pedraza. Pedraza's pretty much, I feel like Pedraza's pretty much done at the end of his career. He should definitely beat Pedraza. Listen, like Teofimo, I think he's a good fighter. But I just can't see him. I mean, as far as his first grade at 140, I just can't see him getting in there with the big people at 140, the big 40 pounders, like myself, like a Josh Taylor, like even Ramirez, Catterall. They got some, even like a Zepeda or something like that. I mean, they got some big dudes at 140, and I know Tio. We've been around, we hung around and stuff like that before. He's not that big of a guy, so. For him to come to 140 and beat the top 40s, I mean, I think it'll be hard, but I just don't think he has the frame. I don't think he has the frame for it. He'll definitely have some success against some people, like a Pedraza and stuff like that. But once he starts stepping up, I don't think that he can beat the big guys, the big 140s. But I could be wrong. We'll see.
Yeah, you've got a point. I remember him struggling with Nakatani when he fought him. And obviously that was at 140. Yeah, you've got a point. Just finally, Regis, before we let you go, it's always great having you on. If you've got a closing message just to the listeners, say anything you like, my friend, before we let you go.
I mean, I just, first off, of course, you're in the UK, so I definitely, that's, I always have love for the UK and stuff like that. I know y'all are tremendous boxing fans over there. That's why I definitely have love for the UK. I mean, just tune in November 26th, me, Regis Prograis versus Jose Zepeda, for the WBC title. I'm looking to become a 2-time world champion. And, yeah, that's it. I thank people for all the support so far, and I just ask for more support and continued support. And, that just to get better and better and climb the ranks and be in, way bigger fights. But right now, 2-time world champion, November 26th, Regis Prograis versus Jose Zepeda.
It's going to be a great fight. I believe in the UK we can watch it on Fight TV. But listen, Regis, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, my man. You know that. Best of luck, November 26th, and we'll speak sometime after.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show, usually the news, but once again, there's no news to report at this stage, so if anything develops from now to the end of the show, then I will get onto it at the very end on the outro. Let's move to the preview part of the show. This one takes place tomorrow night at the Mecca of UK boxing, York Hall, Bethnal Green, London, where else? On this card we have Sean Noakes, that's the brother of Sam Noakes, 2-0. He gets in with tough journeyman Peter Alexandrov, who is 4-23. Alexandrov only been stopped 7 times in 23 there. I'd want to stay away from that on the bets. David Adelaide, the heavyweight, 9-0 in a 6-rounder against Elvis Garcia, who's 9-3. He's Mexican, Elvis Garcia, could have guessed it. Elsewhere on the card, friend of the show, Willie Hutchinson, 14-1, steps in with Luca Spadaccini, who is 8-4 with 3 draws. That's over 10 rounds there for the vacant WBO Intercontinental Light Heavyweight title. Spadaccini never been stopped in his 4 losses, by the way, so maybe that could mean something. Willie Hutchinson, obviously, had a rough career really over the last year or 2 years or so. It's been slow, obviously got knocked out, and he's on the comeback trail now. And the main event, Nick Ball, 16-0, 12-rounder here if I'm not mistaken, for the WBC silver featherweight title against Jesus Ramirez Rubio, who's 21-1 with 3 draws. 20-1, I think, with 3 draws. On a bit of a run as well. A few knockout wins in a row by the looks of it. His one draw came to Brandon Herrera back in March of 2020. He was an undefeated fighter at the time, Herrera. One loss to Cesar Gonzalez. That was back in 2017. This could be a good fight. I've heard some things about this guy as well. 14 KOs from his 20 wins. It's going to be interesting. Whenever Nick Ball fights, it's very interesting, actually. So I tell you what, that's a tough old fight. I don't think the Mexican's been given too much notice, so that'll work in Ball's favour. But from what I'm hearing, there could be an upset on the cards. So we'll see. I'm going to look into the odds on that one. What else do we have? This one as well. It's also on Friday night tomorrow at the Sheffield Arena in Sheffield, Yorkshire, United Kingdom. Over here, let's start with the undercard. Yeah, let's start with the undercard. Lisa Whiteside, that's a lady I've heard a lot of good things about. She is 4-0. She gets in with Eva Cantos of Spain, who's 4-8 with a draw. Former opponent of Ellie Scotney, never been stopped. That's over 8 2-minute rounds there. Elsewhere on the card, brilliant undercard fight between Jack Bateson, 17-0, and Shabazz Massoud, 10-0. That's for the WBA Intercontinental Super Bantamweight title, over 10 rounds. Really, really good fight. I mean, Jack Bateson, really good amateur. Shabazz Massoud, not sure how good he did as an amateur, but I've heard some brilliant things of him as a pro. So that is a great, great, great fight there. Great fight. I'm hoping the odds are close because it should be. Elsewhere on the card, we've got Thomas Asomba, 11-7 with a draw. The tough man from Cameroon, now based in Sheffield, managed by Sonny Edwards. Current IBF flyweight world champion. He obviously beat Asomba. Now he's become his manager, and he throws him in there with Marcel Braithwaite, 13-3, a man that of course boxed Sonny Edwards as well and dropped Sonny Edwards as well, if my memory serves me right. So yeah, two guys that both fought Sonny Edwards once before, both on the undercard, and now he manages one of them, only in boxing. That's over 12 rounds there. And then the main event, Sonny Edwards, 18-0, friend of the show, defending his IBF flyweight world title against Felix Alvarado. It's a brilliant fight. Felix Alvarado, 38-2, 33 KOs. You don't see it too often, that many knockouts down at flyweight. From Nicaragua, been around a long, long time, on a heck of a streak as well. Hasn't lost since 2014. He lost 2 fights back to back in 2013 and 2014, and that was a long, long time ago. Obviously, I don't need to tell anybody that. Since then, he has been really impressing. I think this is a really hard fight for Sonny Edwards, but I love the fight. You know, this is the kind of fights I want to see Sonny in, to be honest, because I like it when he gets in there with his style. He's so hard to hit. He's a brilliant mover, excellent feet, and I want to see him in there with guys that can, turn your lights off in one shot. It's going to be exciting, I think, for the entirety of the fight. And yeah, Alvarado, I mean, super experience on his side. Obviously former world champion, he's seen it all really. He is coming to the end of his career, you'd have to say. 33 years of age as a flyweight, it's kind of old, I guess, really, but should make for a good fight nonetheless. Moving out now to this one. It takes place on the Saturday at the Manchester Arena. It's going to be live on Sky Sports. Let's talk about the main event. Dalton Smith, one of the brightest prospects that there really is in UK boxing, at least. He's 12-0. He gets in with Casey Benjamin, who's 16-1 with a draw. Dalton Smith, like I say, brilliant to watch every single time. It's a good step up. I like what they're doing with him. A couple of good fights really in a row, I want to say. I remember he had a good fight against Ray Moylett, Sam O'Mason, now Casey Benjamin, who, is proven decent guy. So I like that fight there. What do we have on the undercard? We've got Natasha Jonas, of course, defending her world titles. I think she's got 2 of them these days, if I'm not mistaken, the WBC and WBO. She gets in there with the IBF champion Marie-Eve Dicaire, who's 18-1. Her one loss came to Clarissa Shields back in March of 2021. She boxed Clarissa at 154. Obviously, Clarissa, I think, vacated the belts. Then she fought for a vacant belt last time out. Knocked out, by the way, Cynthia Lozano, who was an undefeated fighter, 9-0. And that was her first knockout, Marie-Eve Decaire. So she goes in against Jonas, 18-1, only one KO win, but it was her last fight. So maybe she's in good form. Maybe losing to Clarissa Shields was what she needed. It could be a tough fight there for Natasha Jonas, 12-2 with a draw. All the best to her, though. Elsewhere on the card as well, great fight between Tyler Denny, the current English middleweight champion, 14-2 with 3 draws, getting in with friend of the show, the undefeated Mancunian Bradley Ray, 14-0. Really good guy, Bradley Ray. Had him on the show a good few times now. Really nice guy. All the best to him, of course. Elsewhere on that undercard, we have a brilliant heavyweight fight as well. There's still good money for you to back it for Fraser Clark to win this one on points. Fraser Clark 3-0 gets in with Kamil Sokolowski, the heavyweight journeyman who causes almost everyone absolute nightmares. 11-26 with 3 draws. Always puts up a good fight there, so that should be interesting. That's a good test there, really, for a guy that's only had 3 pro fights in Fraser Clark. And then moving to the final 2 cards that take place, both of them in the States. I'm going to start here with this one. It's a top-ranked show at the Palms Resort Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. Over here, Sinisa Estrada, the WBA World Minimum Weight World Champion, 22-0, gets in with Jasmine Villarino, who's 6-1 with 2 draws. Always good to see Sinisa Estrada fight. She looks like Jennifer Lopez. She punches like Teofimo Lopez. That's something I came up with. I know you like that one. And the main event,
I like that, Joe.
and the main event, Zanibek Alimkhanuly, 12-0, obviously from Kazakhstan. Nobody wants to fight this guy. This is the guy that apparently Demetrius Andrade ran a million miles in the opposite direction to avoid. We've seen him dispatch of Britain's Danny Dignam last time out back in May. He just wiped the floor with him. He really did. And here he gets in with another Brit who's massively up against it, this time in the shape of Denzel Bentley, 17-1 with a draw, coming off a great win last time out, knocking out Marcus Morrison in 4 rounds. And obviously the win before that against Linus Udofia was really close. He did, of course, get knocked out himself in round 3 against Felix Cash. It's a massive ask, but if Bentley can put hands on Alimkhanuly, then I give him a decent chance. Bentley can bang, there's no denying that, and that is pretty much his only chance, because Alimkhanuly, I think, is a really special fighter, and it's for the WBO World Middleweight title. So this is what you're in the sport for in terms of Denzel Bentley. You're here to take the risks. He's obviously got on a plane to Vegas and he's willing to put it all on the line here. He's already lost his O, so he's going to give it his all, I think, against Alimkhanuly, and all the best to him. If he wins, he becomes a star overnight. I'd love to see him do it. It'd be a huge upset, though. I'm not getting carried away. And moving out now to the final card to mention, I'm guessing it's going to be on DAZN. It's an Eddie Hearn show. It's at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland, Ohio. Over here we have one of the brightest prospects in world boxing, Raymond Ford, 12-0 with a draw, gets in with Sakaria Lucas, who's 25-1-1. That's over 10 rounds there for the WBA Continental Americas featherweight title. We also have on the card another really bright prospect, Richardson Hitchens, 14-0. A fight here for the IBF North American Super-Lightweight title against Yomar Alamo, who's 21-1. And the main event, Montana Love, who I'm starting to warm towards, to be honest with you. I remember him beating Ivan Baranchyk, and that was pretty much his breakout fight, but Baranchyk seems like he's finished anyway, obviously, at this point. He might have even retired. He's been in some serious wars in his last few fights. Montana Love came through with a brilliant win that night. He's now, like I say, 18-0 with a draw. He gets in with Australia's Steve Spark, who's 15-2. We know that the Australians always come to give it a good go. Chances don't really come up too often for the Aussie boxers, so they tend to, to pour it all out and put it all on the line. So hopefully we see a good fight there in Cleveland. And that main event, by the way, is for the WBA Intercontinental Super-Lightweight title over 12 rounds. And yeah, big things for the winner, I think, there, because everyone's kind of getting a crack at 140 at the moment. We had Regis on, obviously, a little bit earlier in the show. It is getting exciting, that division, and it seems like it's been exciting for a long, long time. Anyway, that concludes all of the talking. In part one, we did the review part. We had our special guest, the Rougarou, Mr. Regis Prograis. In part two, no news to mention, just the preview part. We've wrapped that up. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 369 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A huge shout out to this week's special guest, the former super-lightweight WBA world champion, Mr. Regis Prograis. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. That's about everything from myself. No news to go over. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.